Nigel, marking an anniversary.
Yes, indeed. 2 years this week, really. In fact, of Tuesday, that the stadium obviously collapsed, the roof collapsed. So it's been a really interesting, I guess, in a terminology, a character-building time for everyone involved this last 2 years.
There was great zest and enthusiasm to do the rebuild, obviously. Targets 2012, and they've been missed. Do you sort of regret rushing into it that much in terms of the promotion of it? Does it hurt you?
It has hurt us in the sense of, I guess, from a publicity or public point of view, in the sense of when we were going to be finished. What we did at the time, obviously, was took all the information that we had from the experts, the professionals. One master builder in town told me we would have this new building built within 15 months, and I have a huge respect for him, obviously. But obviously, no one predicted the Christchurch earthquake, and that has had a devastating effect on not only the cost of the building, but the time frame around getting the rebuilt. So it's we had to put a line in the sand at some point, and it's been really difficult because that line has changed on 3 occasions now. So it's all about credibility out there. But I guess what we can promise to the wider Southland community is that we've done our very best, and that we will have something for Southlanders to be very, very proud of going forward.
There's a lot of confidence about March this year, so to March next year, and there's been a further delay. What's that, the latest one, and how much confidence can there be in that next date?
Yeah, we were absolutely confident around March 2013, unquestionably. That was going to be the date, the readjusted date, and then we received a bombshell from the engineering report on stage 3, which we'll call it, which is the old foyer stage. That's the piece that actually stood up in the whole collapse, really. And our initial indication some 2 years ago that it would be fine, and then we'd just rebuild around it, perhaps a lick of paint and some recarpeting and so on, and we'd get there. Unfortunately, the report that's come back under the new building code and the earthquake code has changed that significantly. It was a $6 million build, you know, it's up to $7 or $8 million now. I don't say that with any arrogance, that's just reality now. That's what it's cost. So it's put a real pressure on the project team at the moment to find that additional funding just to get stage 3 completed. This is stage 3, which is the redevelopment of the foyer area. As we look up, obviously, the old foyer looked quite big when it was there, but obviously we're a lot higher coming off the existing community court now, where you see the white trusses. It's going to come right across the span, basically to where the gate is here. So it's a huge new redevelopment here. The people will spill out from here, go down to the promenade through here or out behind me here. So a major redevelopment in this area here. It's about a $6 million one. Originally we started with 12 piles, went to 24 piles, and now we're at 44 piles. So that's an engineering issue moving forward again as a result of the earthquake. So that's why we have the cost adjustment in that redevelopment. So
what are the other avenues for this additional funding?
Well, we've had the $8 million from the traditional funders, the Invercargill City Council, the Invercargill Licensing Trust, the Community Trust of Southland, and of course Lou Crimp gave us the $2 million. So that was a fantastic start. We've gone to central government, as you're aware, and that's been difficult, just with the Christchurch earthquake, but we're going back and knocking on the door because we believe that this is Southland's disaster in its own small way. We had the farming disaster around obviously the snowfall, but the stadium was the focal point of our community. So that's our pitching point to central government, and we believe that we have a really strong case around that. So going back to central government to try and see if we can get some response from them, obviously. Looked at other opportunities also. When we built the Stadium Southland Velodrome, for instance, at the end there, it was going to be a $6.5 million build, and we called it a track and a shack for the crudelity of the actual situation. We ended up with an $11 million facility, which I believe is world class. So we went back to the general public at the end, and we actually got $750,000 from the public. So things like a public appeal are now starting to loom in the sense of how could we do that. Had a few phone calls from some individuals saying, hey, we'd like to donate, you know, $500 or $5,000. So that's a fantastic opportunity. A little reluctant now until we know where our whole community, that's our major funders are, and of course, as you're aware, naming rights is now coming into the picture.
Is that helping the shortfall, or is it something you'd already budgeted to get?
It's a new addition, really. A lot of us have been talking about it for a while. In fact, the naming rights is now a critical issue going forward. The committee around that are meeting this week around that, and we've had some good response from the wider community, New Zealand-wide, in the sense of naming rights. I guess our attraction for that is that we are, again, multi-purpose. We've got a couple of franchises playing out of the venue. So we've got the Steel and the Sharks, both training and playing out of the venue. And as you're aware, we had around about 80 events per annum going through the venue. So we were probably the most used venue in New Zealand in the sense of event structure. And we had some big entertainment events also. So we've got a few strings to our bow to offer to any potential sponsor going forward. So it's going to be very competitive.
So Southlanders might have to get used to the McDonald's Stadium or the Coca-Cola. I'm just guessing some names here. It might be a generic international brand.
It could be, and we had a chat before about that, and it's interesting where perception is around people. There's lots of stadiums I could name now worldwide that have names around them, obviously. A little bit more traditional down here. Stadium Southland has its own ring about it. It's owned by the people of Southland. It's the People's Stadium. It may get a bit of used to, but we've put it out there to the public and we've had no negative feedback at the moment. So, yeah, it possibly could be a Coca-Cola or whatever.
Anyone who alleviates the financial pressure, I think there's an understanding there, surely.
Absolutely, and there's a lot of money involved, Tom, if you've got something to offer, but it's only worth what people are prepared to pay.
We're right in the middle of centre court now, aren't we?
We are indeed. This is basically Events Court 1, so stage 1 and 2 we are here.
Same orientation as before?
Exactly the same as we played the last 10 years, obviously, before the demise, yeah.
Except there'll be permanent seating at one end?
Yeah, what we had down the far end, we had a rock climbing wall down there, obviously. This time we've gone for permanent seating with some retractable seating at the front of it also. So 800 seats, as you see, 400 at the top, and then retractable seating coming off the wall, another 440. So what it does do, it gives the opportunity for promoters to come in and either use it as that sort of seating, or putting the retractable seating away, putting some corporate seating in front of it as well, so two-dimensional.
Okay. And on this side we'll have Court 2 again, with retractable seating as we got used to?
Yeah, the old Ray Harper stand. In fact, the only wall that stood up when the building came down, so that's how sturdy Ray was, but another 1,200 seats on that wall, retractable, which can come out to any configuration that you might need. So if you're wanting 400, 600, 800, we can bring it in and out just to meet your needs, so or meet the promoter's needs. So that was a fantastic stand, and that we used frequently for most of our events. Okay,
and for shows, the stage would be where?
Just right in front of us here.
Right in front of the...
As we had for the likes of a Hayley Westenra, we had for Billy Connolly, or so back into this area here. Although we have greater opportunity now with the size of the building to build up bigger numbers. We are an A-list venue now, or prescribed as one, so we can seat 4,017 people in the new venue, because over in the back wall, community court, we have another 1,200 seats that are permanently going to be there.
Okay. So there'll be, you can bring seats to the end of this court?
So another stand that actually, first in Australasia, that you and I can drive off the back wall in quarters or halves or three-quarters, bring it out and sit it so we can watch the netball or the basketball this way, or we can turn it on the angle to watch a show maybe performing here. So all those seats are padded, so a step up from where we were in the previous build.
Good to see all the camera positions in readiness.
Yeah, something new.
I was very pleased about that.
Work closely with yourselves and with Sky and so on. So yeah, it just gives another advantage, trying to take technology to its next step and give you a better viewage and vantage points from a television coverage perspective. So we put a lot of work into that. And of course behind us is the old corporate area here. And that's the piece of the building, Tom, that's the existing part, which we're having the trouble with at the moment.
Okay. End of the day, you might have to borrow some money. That's an option, isn't it? To go ahead and it's something you'd have to consider the same way other stadia, for so far, a perfect example, to borrow some money.
Absolutely. Hamilton Cycling Centre, they're borrowing, you know, an exorbitant amount of money, 28 million. Claudens, they borrowed $78 million, the council did. So if we have to do that, it's the last, we want to open debt free if we can, but the question we've asked the community now is that future generations, what is so wrong with them actually having to contribute going forward? And because it's their children and their children and their grandchildren will all actually have the benefit of a brand new multi-purpose venue that we're going to create. It's only going to be, if we have to do that, a couple of $1 million, and I don't say that arrogantly, but to service that, I believe we can service that over a period of time. So it may be the last cab off the rank that we have to do.